This is Bean to Barstool, a podcast that looks at the intersections of craft chocolate, craft beer, and other artisan drinks. My name is David Nilsson. I'm a professional drinks writer, an advanced Cicerone, the author of Pairing Beer and Chocolate, and the creator and host of this show. The music for this episode is by my dear friend, indie folk musician Anna P.S. You can find out more about Anna's music in the show notes or on annapsmusic.com. You can find links and information about our guests in the show notes as well. I hope you enjoy this episode of Bean to Barstool. Hello, everyone, and welcome to December. We've already had our first couple of snows here in Ohio. All the trees are pretty much bare. It's one of my favorite times of year. Basically, October through March, I'm happy, and then I'm ready for some warm sun on my skin again, finally. Wherever you are, I hope you're enjoying these final days of 2025, looking toward a new year. I generally slow down my writing and event schedule in December to be able to take time off around the holidays. I have a couple events during this first week of the month, and then an all-day staff education at a local brewery next week, and then nothing until January. Speaking of, if you work at a brewery and you'd like to incorporate staff beer education, by all means, reach out to me and we can talk about how I can help with that. Speaking of beer education, I'm really excited for you to hear from our guest in today's episode. We're talking with a rising voice in beer education and beer and food pairing, Joanne Mumbey of BeyLoved Pairings. Joanne is a certified Cicerone and newly, as of this month, a certified Pommelier, and she is the founder of BeyLoved Pairings, through which she leads curated beer and food pairings that go beyond the European cuisines that are typically found at beer dinners to incorporate food traditions from around the world, including Moroccan, Viet Cajun, and various traditions from around the Caribbean, among others. In 2025, she was recognized as one of Wine Enthusiast's Future 40 Tastemakers, which gives you an idea of her trajectory. I finally got to meet Joanne in person at Crafted for Action in Atlanta this past summer, and I reached out to her recently about having a conversation about the spirit behind her pairings. I also wanted her to taste some craft chocolate, so I sent her some bars and we discussed those tastings and some beers she paired with them in this episode. After our conversation, be sure to check out Joanne's website and socials, which I've linked to in the show notes. And stick around also to hear some news from the craft chocolate world. But for now, listen in as I talk with Joanne Mumbey. Joanne brings a level of elegance and grace to how she conducts her pairings that we more typically see reserved for the world of fine wine, and which I think we need more of in beer. At the outset, I asked her why she did pursue beer as her main storytelling medium rather than any other beverage. So, Joanne, why beer? If you could have taken any kind of path toward what you're doing today, what led you down the path of beer?
Yeah, so for me, I think my earliest beer memory for sure growing up in Uganda is Malwa. It's traditional Ugandan beer made with sorghum, millet, and it was always drank communally. It was about bringing people together, women, men, different tribes, religions. And so for me, beer has always been about coming together. It's been accessible to everybody. It's really approachable. And I feel like just like a certain freedom in beer, you're just having pints with friends. It's just very like just easy, relaxing. And I also love that every culture really does have a beer and being able to pair that with every culture's cuisine too really ties back to that for me. So just the fact that it's everywhere open every culture and person, I think is really special about beer.
When was the last time you had the chance to try traditional Ugandan beer?
It's been a while because I've not been home in over 10 years. But I know I was in Ethiopia about 5 years ago and I had their traditional like tej. It's like a honey
Mhm.
wine. It remind me of that kind of communal drinking and flavor.
That's really cool. So you
Yeah.
do BeyLoved Pairings. You're leading these professional pairings with beer and working with chefs and restaurants and things. What led to the transition to deciding to do that professionally?
Yeah, so I know I've been talking about it to my friends for a long time. Little background about myself. I went to culinary school at Johnson and Wales. And so I've always loved food and just culinary has been a big part of my world. And so I really wanted to figure out a way to incorporate beer and food together and also really to be able to highlight more diverse cuisines. I just had this kind of like just itching for it recently. So Yeah, last May, I officially just kind of dove in and started off my first event with fusion of African, Caribbean, and Latin food. I really just want to highlight those cuisines in a higher level, more elevated experience with beer and food pairings, warm hospitality, really nice elegance, and just really showcase flavors that are typically overlooked in the beer pairing space, really highlight them and just, yeah, share it with the world.
Yeah, no, there does seem to be. I haven't had the chance to attend one of your events, but just watching on social media, it does seem to be that there is kind of a different spirit of like elegance and
Yeah.
presenting beer in a way that it deserves and often doesn't,
Yes. Yeah.
doesn't get to see. Can you give us an example of some of the pairings you've done, maybe specific dishes, reasons that you've put some of those things together?
Yeah, to know one that comes to mind was like my first event actually. The dessert was a coconut cake with passion fruit and mango, kind of more Caribbean inspired. And I know Green Bench Brewing, Chris had a really wonderful doppelbock that was aged in rum barrels,
Mm.
and so bringing that kind of like chocolate and like chocolate rum coconut kind of classic Caribbean pairing was really fun to put that together with beer and dessert. And like guests really loved enjoying that experience. That kind of storytelling is really fun too.
Talk to us a little bit about the storytelling component of this. So when you're actually leading a pairing and you're presenting a dish and a beer, how are you walking guests through that?
Yeah, so I always start with kind of introduction about what the theme is. I know like my last event was the occasion theme, so I kind of explained the background of how the occasion came to be and the basic like the flavor profile, the history behind it, the culture. And then I always have the chef talk about each dish, the components, the history and why behind it. I know one of my events, we had Moroccan foods. The Moroccan chef explained like his favorite childhood dish, how his mom used to make it, and the really cultural significance of it. And they're usually having it served at big like family celebrations. And so tying in that story and part of it. And then I'll come in and talk about the beer. I give a breakdown of like the history of the style, the flavor profile. Then I dive into like the pairing itself, why the flavors work together, other significant stories about the brewer or the brewery specifically, and dive into it that way. So it's very interactive with the guests. They can always ask questions and yeah.
That's really cool. Working with cuisines like Caribbean countries, Morocco, wherever else it might be,
Mhm.
typical North American beer media has maybe not provided much of a roadmap for pairing those cuisines with beer. So, like, what is the process
Yeah.
like? You're not necessarily just opening up the brewmaster's table and finding the chapter on that. So, like, how are you
Yeah.
walking through setting those and creating those?
Yeah, so if I could, my culinary background, I always had to kind of just have my little notebook. I kind of break down each dish into like the flavors, the different spices, notes that are in there. And I'll use the flavor Bible book a lot too to kind of like look at possible pairings, what flavors might work well. So I usually start with that, and then I'll start to look at different beers and kind of go through kind of theoretically like what I think would work perfectly, and then actually go through and actually sit down and do a tasting, kind of eliminate because some things always sound better on paper than they do in real life when you
Right.
taste them. Yeah, it's always hit or miss. That's been kind of how I do it. Really just sit down and take my time to break down the dish and the flavors and spice levels because yeah, it's not your classic like, oh, barley wine and salt and cheese or,
Right.
double
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
roast duck. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you come across any things that really surprised you in that process?
Like pairings that have been like set out more or
Yeah, I mean, maybe something that you were taking a chance on and then it was awesome, or, the
yeah.
opposite.
That's true. There's one that I've always loved. I loved we had Ethiopian samosas for kind of like samosas, like an empanada kind of pastry. That with Vienna lager was really wonderful. I
Hmm.
loved that pairing a lot. The one that surprised me that was pretty popular too was I did doppelbock with like a tandoori spiced fried chicken, and that was a huge hit with waffles too. So it was really fun. It's been cool seeing some like kind of more esoteric styles that kind of get forgotten
Yeah.
about, like with some cool ingredients. That was it's been fun, like also pulling out different styles that are kind of forgotten. So
Yeah, that is really cool.
yeah.
What kind of responses have you gotten from your guests? I mean, I assume for many people, they're encountering either the dishes or at least the pairings for the very first time.
Yeah, no, it's been really awesome feedback. Their guests who like have some regulars that are like, oh, I only drink saisons, I drink lagers, but they're like, oh, wow, I think I'd actually drink a dunkel now, or try a doppelbock, or try a barley wine because they've had the pairing now, and even the food too has been cool. Seeing people that haven't had like maybe Moroccan food before, and learn about like labna and like the Ethiopian bubri spice, and just they're really excited about learning new things, and they feel very comfortable to ask questions and not feel like left out or like, well, you don't know what that is, like so it's been cool seeing like the foodies and the beer nerds kind of come together and both learn new things. It's yeah, it's pretty
Yeah, I
fun.
was, I was going to ask, do you find that there's
Yeah.
like, is that typically more beer geeks who are like, all right, let's try this pairing? Is it culinary people?
Yeah.
Who is showing up to these typically?
Yeah, so at first I thought it was gonna be mostly like just beer enthusiasts and beer nerds, I'll say, but it really has been a bigger like selection of more like foodies actually that are intrigued by the cuisines and curious to try beer pairings with them. So that's been a big one because I even have some guests that just attend and they're not drinking, they're just there for the food and the community
Mm.
and just the experience. So it's been cool to see and yeah, and share.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the sensory experience can be such a powerful point of connection,
Oh yeah.
whether it's sharing dishes, from one culture to
Mhm.
another. Even if you're tasting something and everybody's tasting it for the first time, you're all coming to that from different backgrounds and different sensory experiences. And it can be such a point of like
Mhm.
vulnerability and the ability to kind of share stories around why you're reacting to these flavors this way. And such a cool
Right.
thing. Yeah. Well,
Absolutely.
let's talk a little bit about pairing beer and chocolate. I sent you a few chocolate
Yeah.
bars, and you've had the chance to test drive those with some beers. So I sent
Mhm.
you three different bars, and this was not the intention in advance. But as I was looking at the
Oh,
bars that I
gotcha.
wanted to send you, they all ended up being paired with Belgian beers. So we went
Yeah.
straight Belgian on this one. And the first one that I want to talk about is from Aro Chocolate, which is a Philippine chocolate maker. And I sent you their Luna, which is a 50% dark milk chocolate. And we were pairing that with a Belgian double. So, first off, tell me a little bit about tasting this bar, maybe what your expectations were, what surprised you about it, what did you taste in there?
We'll be right back.
Hey everyone. Getting a Cicerone certification is an amazing way to raise your beer knowledge and can be a game changer for your beer career. But how are you supposed to find the time to prep, and how are you supposed to know exactly what to study? Don't sweat, because the Beer Scholar has you covered. The Beer Scholar is a sponsor of Bean to Barstool, but I can tell you from personal experience years before I was doing this podcast how helpful the Beer Scholar study guides are. They offer efficient online courses for levels 1 and 2 that cover everything you need to know, tips and tricks for how to pass the exams, and include live weekly Zooms to taste and discuss classic beer styles together. They even have a new coaching program for the Level 3 Advanced Cicerone exam. I used the Beer Scholar study guide to pass my level 2 exam many years ago. I wish the level 3 had been around when I took that exam. I had to do it on my own. Wish their study guides had been available for that at the time. The vast majority of certified Cicerones in the world today have used Beer Scholar to help achieve the goal of passing that exam. If you are ready to take your beer career to the next level, visit thebeerscholar.com and check out their online courses.
Yeah, it was really, no, it was really wonderful chocolate. I was really surprised, at least for me, like kind of paying more attention to how like the chocolate actually melts too, and like the actual mouthfeel.
Mhm.
Feels like little just element that really peaked for me. But I love that it had like just beautiful. I picked up a lot of like almost like cocoa powder, like raisin. I almost got like almond liquor, like almond like rich almond notes in it as well.
Mhm.
That really stood out to me. I really enjoyed it though.
That's really cool. Yeah, one of the things that I love about dark milk chocolate specifically is that mouthfeel
Mhm.
component, because you've
Yeah.
got some of the intensity of flavor of dark chocolate, but that milk powder component like just gives you this really silky, elegant melt. And so you
Mhm.
just get some amazing textural components there. What was your relationship to craft chocolate before this? Have you had much craft chocolate?
Just kind of here and there, mostly like when I was in culinary school with some pastry classes, but it's definitely been a while. I know I have a family that's obsessed with chocolate, so I usually see it here and there. But I know usually like I'm not always a huge dark chocolate fan, but I definitely changed my mind with the pairings we had today. So it's really cool to try some different ones. So I'm excited.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for the pairing on this bar, what Belgian double did you end up getting a hold of?
So I ended up going with St. Meredith's as a Patter 6.
Nice.
I wish I had gotten the Westmalle double like I usually get, but it's still, I think, a really good pairing though.
Yeah.
I just felt like the double would have, the Westmalle would have had a little bit more body to it, a little bit more malt character, but this was really wonderful though too.
Yeah, cool. Well, tell me about your experience with pairing these. I don't know if you've done any beer and chocolate pairing in the past, but like tell me a little bit about your
Yeah.
mindset going into the pairing.
It was first time doing it. I was pretty excited to actually like dive down and do it just doing it this style. So I had the chocolates first, took my notes, and had the beers separately, then did it all together and took my notes on that. But yeah, but I just really love just seeing how the the beer interacting with the chocolates and seeing like the matching flavors, but also like contrasting ones that also helped bring out notes in the chocolate that I couldn't really taste before and bring out notes in the beer as well. Especially with the dark chocolates, just seeing how like it does kind of get mellowed out in a nice way to kind of bring out some of those richer dark fruit notes or chocolatey notes and other spices that are in there too.
Cool.
Mhm.
Well, as you paired these two bars specifically, then the dark milk
Mhm.
and the double, tell me about your sensory experience as you were putting those together.
Yeah, so I really loved. I picked up a lot like from the beer, like really beautiful, like raisin, almost like golden raisin notes, prune, baking spices, dark caramel, burnt sugar. The two together for me, I almost kind of thought of like an oatmeal raisin cookie, with like
Mm,
almost like a brown butter note and some bit of spice and semi-sweet chocolate chips. So like it really tied that into it for me. So I love that contrast and complement a lot together.
yeah. One of the
Mhm.
things that I love about this pairing in general of any dark milk with Belgian double is that texture and the way that like the
Mhm.
not super full, but like moderately full body in the beer and that high effervescence already has kind of like a creaminess to it. And with the
Mhm.
milk of the chocolate, the melt, it just has this incredibly elegant texture to it. And texture, I feel like, is often something that we relegate several levels down when we're thinking about our flavor experience. And
Right.
when you're looking at these textures together, it really makes the flavors pop in a different way than if this were, a really dry, light bodied beer, even if the flavors were the same, or if this were
Mhm.
not milk chocolate, even though that's not necessarily impacting flavor as much. Like it's really cool to see the way that changes things. I was leading a tasting last night at a brewery, and they've got a beer engine, and they were doing a
Oh yeah.
Japanese rice lager, and they had it on draft and on the beer engine.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
And they were two completely different beers, tasting them
Yeah.
side by side, even though it's like all the only difference here is it really is texture and a slight temperature difference. But like
Right.
that mouthfeel makes such a difference. What did you think of this pairing? Did you enjoy it?
I did enjoy it a lot. I think I'd have liked it a little bit more if I had chosen a different double, but that's just on me. But I did love the like the spice character coming out and the effervescence and like the mouthfeel really was really brightened up. I really enjoyed it.
Cool. Well, let's talk a little bit about your background as a taster. You mentioned going to culinary school. Has the
Mhm.
sensory experience always been something you resonated with? Was that something that you discovered at one point and realized it could open up these other things? What was that process like?
Yeah, I think it kind of clicked later. I think when because like during COVID, I had a lot of downtime, so I got into beer that way, and so I feel like that's when I kind of realized more of appreciation for sensory. I always kind of would taste food and spices. I'm like, okay, I get this is cool, it tastes great, but I think just actually sitting down and getting through the process more and just seeing how like it's. I love the fact that you can like bring back so many memories too and food flavors, moments,
Mhm.
just things will spark. I think it's just really beautiful that way. And just challenging your brain to kind of seek out new flavors and experiences. I really enjoyed that as well about it.
Absolutely. Talk a little bit about your tasting process. Not
Mhm.
necessarily the mechanics of this, but like if you're going to sit down to appreciate anything, whether it's beer, wine, chocolate, whatever,
Mhm.
walk me through kind of your headspace and what you're trying to get out of that experience.
I guess I always start with aroma first. I really do like to just kind of dive in and see like what aromas and flavor, like what aromas like are coming to me, whether it's any memories being evoked or like if it's citrus, is it, like palm fruit, and like where is that like and just kind of diving deep down into like, okay, what kind of citrus is it? Is it orange, lemon, lime? Is it zest? Is it pith? Is it juice? Breaking that down, then diving into the actual taste, flavor, and like sweetness levels. Is it sour? Is it salty? Is it bitter? But yeah, I just like just really sitting down and taking my time though, and just seeing like what flavors things, like what flavors come back to mind for me. And I know I think just my culinary background, I always think a lot of food focused flavors like baking or spices. And so it's like food for me first is my first kind of flavor and aroma like that I usually think of.
Is the tasting experience for that kind of deeper purpose part of your regular practice? Like, is that something that you're intentionally sitting down to do on a regular basis, or are these things that are kind of surprising you when you're opening a beer, or trying a dish?
I'd say definitely when I'm having like beer and wine inside, I definitely do that kind of more deeper dive. When it comes to food, probably not as much anymore, but definitely with, yeah, things I'm drinking, whether it's a tea and wine, beer, cider, I definitely kind of have more of that, take a moment to kind of really appreciate the fermentation, the flavors that are put into it, and the way it's been made.
Well, let's talk about the second pairing then. So you messaged me after you
Mhm.
tried this bar and confessed that
Yeah.
you'd had a bit of trepidation about the cacao percentage. So this is from Sisters
Yeah.
A Chocolate. It's a Dominican Republic cacao, 81%, and has cherry in it. Sisters A has
Mhm.
a beautiful story behind them. They're from the Ukraine and have been going on making beautiful chocolate in the midst of everything that they're dealing with in their daily lives there with the ongoing Russian attack, and just been kind of presenting this amazing picture of like resilience and creating beauty as an act of resistance. An amazing story from them. This bar, you were a little worried about that 81%. So tell me about,
Yeah.
first of all, tell me about that concern, like your background with darker chocolate, and then what your experience was tasting this.
Yeah, I guess I've probably not had like craft dark chocolate in the past. It's always just been like to me just very just roasty, like just kind of
Mm-hmm.
bitter, like just roasty intense. And I feel like there's not been much like balance or like much flavor, or maybe I haven't been tasting it the right way. But I really enjoyed this one. I feel like it was just a very like just there was like yes, it was like a like roast character. It was very balanced. I guess like I think of like beer, almost like a Schwarz beer, kind of like just
Mm-hmm.
enough hint of roast, not too much, but still like a dark chocolate character to it. I even picked up like notes of brown sugar, like cinnamon spice, and like the cherries were just like the perfect, I feel like just kind of burst of like tart kind of brightness in the dark chocolate bar. And it wasn't too much or too little, but it was just beautifully laid out. So that was really enjoyable experience. That blew my mind about dark chocolate for sure.
That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, there definitely dark chocolate does not guarantee that it's going to have that kind of like acridness or bitterness. It can,
Yeah.
but it is kind of. I mean, you compare Schwarzbier, like I feel like we run into that with people's misconceptions around dark beer in general or around stouts, that they're always going to be
Right.
heavy or bitter, and it's like, well, they can be, but you've got this
Yeah.
whole range of expressions. So I recommended you pair this with a Flanders red ale, and you were talking about the double. You mentioned wishing you'd picked a slightly different example of a double. There is
Mhm.
an even wider range of expression within Flanders red than there is within Belgian doubles.
That's
So I'm
true.
curious which example you picked and why you went with that.
Yeah, I went with the Rodenbach Grand Cru. I hadn't had this one in quite some time, so I wanted to try that. Go with that for this pairing. And I really did love this one together. I feel like it was perfect for it. Had the one I had heard beautiful like tart red cherry notes to it, a little bit of like tart raspberry, cranberry, red currants, but just like a nice note too of like light brown sugar and not too much like harsh acidity. That
Mhm.
was more balanced, almost like a balsamic vinegar kind of note to it, and a little bit of like earthy, oaky character too. I loved it with this chocolate, especially.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about the experience of pairing them together.
Yes, I loved how the beer related to me, mellowed out a little bit of that like coffee roasty character that the chocolate bar had. Really brought out more of that deeper, like kind of fruity, besides the cherry, like kind of fruity notes to it, a little bit of like sweet baking spices, like picked up a little bit of like cinnamon, a little bit of clove, and it really brightened up those dried cherry notes in there as well. And I felt like it was also just a nice contrast acidity to like the kind of, to me, it was almost kind of like a velvety smooth kind of melting mouthfeel in the finish,
Mm.
and it cleansed that nicely. But yeah, I love those notes. And I also did like how the dark chocolate also in a way with its roasty character also kind of mellowed out the acidity of the beer. So it was
Mm.
really beautiful, just kind of interplay between the two of them and just really enjoyable experience.
Yeah, you're matching a little acidity with acidity, even though they're wildly different in
Oh, that's a good
expression.
point.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
that's
true.
that's fun.
Yeah.
I always love pairing Flanders Red with a bar that has dried fruit in it, like the cherry in here,
Mhm.
because exactly what you were saying, it just kind of like it's like it reinflates the fruit and just like pops
Yeah.
so bright. I love that
Yes, it's so
together.
good.
Were you surprised by pairing with a sour beer with chocolate?
Yeah, I was surprised. I've never actually had it before, so I was curious to see like, especially with seeing how like dark the chocolate was, in a sense of being
Mhm.
81%. But it was really beautiful to see how it just melts perfectly together, the dark fruit notes and the acidity. It really was just beautiful. So that was very surprising.
Very cool. Well, in your experience doing these pairings and any other like beer education stuff that you've done, what is something or a few things that you wish more people understood to be able to enjoy beer more?
Oh man, there's so many things. I guess I wish you'd be open to trying more styles.
No,
Trying
that's
to
fair. I mean, I
think.
think
Yeah, but that's a
that's
big
one
one.
of the great things. I mean, you mentioned earlier with the pairings that like
Yeah.
gives you the opportunity to pull in styles that it might be hard to convince people to try on their own.
Yeah,
And I think that's
absolutely.
one of the really cool things that pairings can do. They're
Yeah.
kind of at your mercy to be like, this is the beer I put with this.
Yeah.
And now they're trying a beer that maybe they wouldn't have ordered.
Right. No, I definitely have that. Yeah, same experience too. I feel like one thing I always still just get pushed back is always like, oh, why beer? Why not a wine pairing? Or why not this? That's always been a
Hmm.
big one. It's like, just give beer a chance.
Yes.
Like it's a great pairing too. It's capable, has a lot of wide range of flavors as well. And I think people kind of start to realize that more and seeing like you said before, like just because it's dark, it's not always going to be like a heavy, like roasty stout. It could be more of like a double or like a Czech dark lager, no more body to it. So I think it's definitely been kind of learning curve for people.
Yeah, for sure. What's next for you with Beloved Pairings? Like, where do you want this to go? Do you have ideas you're brainstorming that you'd love to see come to fruition? What's down the
Yeah.
road?
I mean, I have so many ideas for events and cuisines I
Yeah.
want to pair. But yeah, definitely just trying to host more events. I'd like to have some more like maybe traveling events. I'd like to expand outside Tampa Bay, maybe move to Atlanta, maybe New
Mm.
York if possible, just to see other audiences and expand this out there. Definitely was looking to try like to engage with more cuisines and really diversify. I'm always looking for new chefs and cultures to pair foods with. Also trying to maybe think of some more, not always like as elaborate, like 5 course meal events, maybe some like smaller tastings that are kind of a little bit easier to attend. And yeah, I'm trying to incorporate some more cultural elements too, like possibly some live music, just things to really add more storytelling about culture, nutrition, and cuisine to really engage with people.
Very cool. Well, let's talk about this third and final pairing. So we went with a bar from Stranger Chocolate. This is another Ukrainian maker. And this is the Lachua Guatemala origin. This is, I don't have this bar in front of me. Was that 70 or 73%?
70. Yep.
70. Okay, cool. So tell me about your expectations going in with this bar and then what you thought of it when you tasted
Yeah, I was also a little nervous seeing the dark chocolate.
it.
But I really like this one a lot. This one really for me was when I was tasting it, I really was like trying to figure out what it was because it had a specific like thing in my mind it was reminding me of. And I was like, I got picked up a little bit of like, to me, it was like kind of like spiced dark rum, like cinnamon, clove, dried figs. And then I finally kind of clicked for me. It reminded me of Jamaican black cake. If you ever had that before?
I don't believe I have. What is that?
Yeah, so it's really cool. So I had a lot of my dad's coworkers used to bring a lot of Jamaican black cake for the holidays, as like gifts and stuff. So what they'll do is they macerate raisins, currants, prunes, even dried cherries, in typically dark rum for like a period of time, and then they'll also add browning sauce, which is kind of like a blackstrap molasses kind of flavor, so a bittersweet, and they'll bake that into a cake batter. They'll add allspice, nutmeg, ginger, cinnamon, and they'll bake the cake and then soak it again in more rum as well. And so it's really like rich, dark, dried fruit notes, a bit of like warmth from that spice, nutmeg and allspice and cinnamon. Really rich and decadent, and this chocolate just immediately just like evoked that
Hmm,
flavor for me. So I was
that's
just
so
like
cool.
taking, yeah, in a really cool way, just like brought back that memory. I have not had that cake in forever.
That's
So
like
that
a
was really
way,
cool
way
to
better
me.
fruitcake, basically. Like just
Yeah,
like
yeah.
fruitcake, but actually good.
Right, yep. Yeah,
That's
I just
awesome.
immediately like picked up those flavors and I had this bar, so that was really special to me.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, which Belgian dark strong ale did you pair with this? I typically recommend Belgian dark strong ale, quadruple, however you want to categorize those,
Yeah.
with single origin bars. Single origin bars are notoriously difficult to give
Oh,
pairing advice for because every origin, every maker, every year is going to have variation. And so saying this beer
no.
will always work with this, might work with this specific bar, but might not work with one that should seem like it's the same thing, but actually has some variation. Belgian dark strong ales have the body and have the bold but gentle flavors to be able to kind of cast a pretty wide net and work with a variety of origins. So which Belgian dark strong ale did you go with?
Yeah, I went with the Rochefort 10.
Nice.
And this one, yeah, I picked up like beautiful, like semi-sweet dark chocolate notes in it, a lot of like deep black, like dark raisins, some baking spices, all the cinnamon, clove. I got some hints of like candied orange almost in there, a little bit of like kind of perfumey character, some notes of like maple syrup, a little bit of hot cocoa, and a little bit of like vanilla too in there. It was really beautiful, beautiful beer.
Yeah, no, that is a
Yeah,
all-time classic. And
yeah.
that's a fun one to pick because not all of the beers in this style have that like cocoa flavor, and but the Rochefort 10 does have a little bit of that note to it that you just mentioned. So that's a fun
Yeah.
bridge over. What was your experience pairing these together?
Yeah, so this is a beautiful pairing. I thought it was like a really good, just perfect synergy of the two. Really perfect intensity match with those like rich dark chocolate notes. They really complemented the chocolate notes in the chocolate bar. And I loved like baking spices. The dried fruit notes really came to shine. And for me, kind of like the pairing to me was almost like a dark chocolate covered like dark spice rum, like soaked figs is kind of what I really
Mm.
got out of it. So just really beautiful. The flavors like work so well together. Yeah, I really enjoyed this pairing. Probably my favorite one of all the three, I think.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Well, that was going to be
Yeah.
what I asked next of like what your favorites
Okay.
were here. So, okay, cool. So that's your favorite.
Yeah.
I
I
love
think
your,
the memory just evoking to the black Jamaican black cake just really like just sparked that for me.
yeah, no, I love that. And
Yeah.
I love any time, I mean, as we've been talking about this throughout here, like I love any time a tasting experience can directly evoke something like that, especially like, something like this where you are referencing a flavor experience I don't have. And so you're able to kind of tell a little bit of your story and I'm able to learn a little bit about that just
Yeah.
through flavor notes that you got from tasting a chocolate bar. So I love that. What surprised you the most about pairing these bars with beers, whether it's a specific one or just kind of in general, the experience?
Yeah, I think the most surprising part was definitely you talk about mouthfeel because I always think about that in beer, kind of just in hindsight. But definitely seeing it really was cool to really consider how the beers like either like affected the mouthfeel and improved it, or really highlighted that texture and that really enjoyment of the chocolate bar as well. So I loved that part of it.
Very cool. I love that.
Yeah.
What do you think about pairing beer and chocolate going forward? Do you think this is something you're going to try more now, or this was
I
just a fun
definitely,
experiment? And
yeah, I'm definitely intrigued now. And I have your book too. I've gone through a few times. I actually want
oh,
to kind
thank
of
you.
dive into it more, maybe like add it to some events I do. I think it'd be really cool. So I definitely have a new appreciation for chocolate too, as well, and just the tasting process for chocolate. So it was really
That's
cool to
great.
go through it. Yeah.
I love hearing that. Well, the
Mhm.
last question that I usually ask my guests, who typically are chocolate makers or brewers, is
Mhm.
what story are you telling with the products that you're making? With what you're doing professionally with leading these pairings, what
Mhm.
story are you trying to tell your guests? I know there's lots of specific stories that you're going through in these pairings, but is there an overarching story that you're kind of trying to convey through your pairings?
Yeah, I'd say I feel like the biggest, I guess, like mission for me too is really just like highlighting these cuisines that are typically overlooked, so your African, Asian, Latin, Caribbean cuisines, and the just beer and also just pairing space in general, and really getting to share those cultures and traditions with people, and especially in a way that's very like approachable and easy. You don't have to feel like they don't know anything and it feels embarrassing. It's open. People are there to learn. We're in an intimate setting. I just want them to have fun, enjoy the food, the culture, traditions, and learn about that. And hopefully it like lends them to go look for a Moroccan restaurant, good restaurant, and kind of just tell their friends about different cuisines and flavors and be more adventurous too in tasting, whether it's the food or beer. So I think that's definitely the big goal, and just let me see beer in new light, new cuisines in different light too. It's just yeah.
You can find out more about Joanne and the pairings she leads at the links in the show notes for this episode. Definitely give her a follow on Instagram and check out one of her events if you're in the Tampa area or if she travels to your area of the country. Some fun news from the intersections of craft chocolate and beverage alcohol. There's a cool new collaboration between craft beer and craft chocolate from Verdant Brewing in Cornwall in the UK and Choco Larder. They recently teamed up to create a craft chocolate bar made with and inspired by the brewery's Light Bulb Extra Pale Ale. Still trying to track down the exact method here they're using for infusion. They reference crunchy beer comb made with Centennial and Simcoe hops, but the bar ingredients list the beer itself. So I suspect they're soaking some of the nibs in the beer and then also adding these bits of what they're calling beer comb. I'm going to reach out to them for more info on that. If anyone has had the chance to try the bar, let me know what you thought of it. Front Porch Chocolate in Montana, who were on the show earlier this year, have a new eggnog bourbon white chocolate bar made with cocoa butter infused with bourbon, so check that out on their web shop. Dick Taylor Chocolate has a couple new spirits bars. One is a straight bourbon whiskey 70% bar made by aging cacao nibs in a bourbon barrel. No word on which distillery's barrel or barrels were used. They've also brought back their popular apple brandy bar for the holidays. They age cacao nibs in Sonoma County Distillery apple brandy barrels for an impressive 18 months to make this bar. Speaking of Dick Taylor, if you have a chance to make it out to their shop in Eureka, California, you'll find my book, Pairing Beer and Chocolate, for sale. If you're a craft chocolate maker and you want to stock my book as merch, get in touch. Easy wholesale terms, no minimums, and it's a really unique sideline item to complement your chocolate inventory. If you see a cool new alcohol-infused chocolate bar or really anything cool in the world of craft chocolate, please reach out and let me know. You may well be the reason I find out about it. I hope you all enjoy the holiday season. I'll have one more bonus episode before the new year, and then I'll take a break for a couple weeks and be back in January. Thanks to Joanne for coming on the show today, and to all of you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Bean to Barstool.